Pleasure to welcome you to Second International Conference on Interdisciplinary Educational Reflections at Near East University. Conference organized by the collaboration of Faculty of Education and Graduate School of Educational Sciences. The aim of International Conference on Interdisciplinary Educational Reflection is to provide an opportunity for academician and professional from various educational fields with cross-disciplinary interests to bridge the gap on knowledge, promote research esteem, and the evaluation of educational practices in different contexts. Establishing harmonic pictures through interdisciplinary perspective is the aim of our conference. Research is a medium of knowledge sharing and teamwork. In this perspective, making harmonic picture of collaboration through the research, attempting to contact a conference by the reflection of innovation and entrepreneurship, as being continental on island by the reflecting the nature of fourth generation university. We are honored to have 9 keynote speakers and over 100 papers in order to give insight to academic agenda. Keynote speaker will enlighten us on the conference theme. Today is our milestone to put forward a reflection for coming years based on the theme of reflection on 21st century skills, smart learning environment, and digitalization in education. I wish you constructive and valuable learning journey through our conference, and thanks participants and keynote speakers for their great contributions to our conference. It's an honor to be at Nearest University with the visions of internalization and equality. Thanks for your participation and the contribution. I would like to give the turn to speak to the very speech of our Vice Rector, Professor Dr. Mustafa Kurt.
Well, I believe it's my turn now. First of all, I'll start by thanking the organizing committee. It's the first time that we are organizing a virtual conference. Actually, we are experienced in organization of academic activities, but we're trying to survive regarding these virtual conferences and different realities we have been living through for the last 3-4 months after this COVID-19 disease. Now, after COVID-19 disease, it seems that there is a paradigm shift in almost everything. So paradigm shifts actually mark a turn in centuries. This is important because we started to question almost everything. I call this era the era of redefinition. Actually, we're going over almost everything, and we started to question and redesign just constructs in the society. Education is one of them, and we need to reconsider lots of things regarding education. Now, we have Industry 4.0, and we need to talk about Education 4.0, but after COVID-19, I decided to talk about Education 5.0. So when we talk about Education 5.0, we need to just define and say what was Education 1.0. Education 1.0, it was centuries of just experience with memorization and behaviorist learning approaches. Then we have Education 2.0. There we have cognitive, constructivist, connectivist approaches in learning, and also computer-assisted learning. Then we do have Education 3.0. There we have mass production of knowledge and consumption of knowledge as well. And also we have internet-enabled learning. Then we have Education 4.0. We have the smart technologies and innovative approaches. My understanding of Education 5.0, now we are in a situation that we need to reorganize education itself. And I call this Education 5.0 remote and digitally enhanced learning and teaching. Now, learning and teaching is not the same. Just we have a new generation. I call this new generation the snowflake generation. So they need to be given lots of options. With one option, you cannot survive with this generation. So we need to prepare a lot, and we need to just integrate technologies in our systems. And when we talk about technology and integration, smart technologies, we need to have smart minds and mentalities as well. We cannot survive with traditional way of and standpoints and just try to survive in digitally enhanced learning environments. So when we talk about smart technologies, we need to integrate Internet of Things in education. We need to just integrate data management, big data analytics. We need to just talk about and integrate cloud technologies. And we need to integrate 3D printing in our education and also systems. Now, of course, just we can discuss this, we can talk about this, but integration and doing things are not really very easy. We have a very long way to go. We have started as nearest university to reorganize certain things and to be ready for Education 5.0. So as a university, we are really experienced in academic activities, publications. Let me just give you a brief information about our performance in 2019. Regarding research and publications, we publish over more than 1,500 research articles indexed under Web of Science or Scopus. In 2019, we organize, our academics organize over more than 600 academic activities. If you exclude weekends, it's almost 2 or 3 academic activities in a day. Our academics, they participated in more than 1,700 academic activities worldwide. They do have really international experience in research and presenting what they have actually just produced. And this is important as well for us. This year, 2020, our university has been listed in Times Higher Education regarding quality of education. So we are among 100 to 200 best university is regarding quality of education. So for us, education and research, they are just really very important. And we focus on education and research, and we want our academics, our students, to deal more with research, publications, educations. Our departments as well, more than 30 departments, they are accredited by international accreditation bodies. Now, back to the conference, we had the first one last year. This is the second one. And the topics, the presentations, very distinguished keynote speakers. It's going to be, I believe, a very fruitful conference, and we'll have very good results that we are going to reflect on the results as well, and see what actually we can do in coming years, because we have just new everything. So new education, new normal, new of everything. Finally, I'd like to just wish everybody good luck in their presentations, and I'll be just one of the listeners of the all sessions. Thank you very much, and welcome everybody to our ICIER 2002 conference. Thank you. I believe we will have the first keynote speaker. So back to.
Umut olmaz, önce Buket Hoca'dır, programda da odur. Yes, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the International Conference on Interdisciplinary Educational Reflection, organized by Faculty of Education and Graduate School of Educational Sciences, near East University. I would like to welcome to all my keynotes today. They are very welcome to be together. This conference aims to bring scholars together from all around the world. Over 100 papers will be presented, and respected keynotes will deliver upcoming reflection for the future of education. Now, as you see from this screen, Professor Dr. Buket Akkoyunlu from Çankaya University, Turkey, uh, is with us, and we can start with the first keynote, and I would like to invite her to deliver her speech. Welcome, Professor Dr. Buket Akkoyunlu from Turkey, and good morning, and we are very honored to be with you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone from Ankara. First of all, I would like to thank the committee to invite me for this conference. I am going to talk about the quality assurance and accreditation of higher education in the midst of the coronavirus. So we are having a trouble times nowadays. That's why I am going to talk a little bit about the future of online education, what is going to be. First of all, higher education matters. Let's look at the higher education matters. Student numbers are exploding around the world, as there has never been a greater need for a good higher education. A newly updated some study maps show that in global demand for higher education through 2040, and anticipates that there will be nearly 600 million students enrolled in the universities around the world. There is a chart which organized by the UNESCO. It says total number of students in higher education is expected reach nearly 380 million by 2030, and more than 594 million by 2040. So we have to deal with lots of things for higher education institutions. Then coronavirus came, so everything is upside down. Universities around the world, as you know, have shifted online because of the outbreak of COVID-19. Lecture halls remain silent, laboratories sit idle to operate with minimal staff, and administrators grapple with how to safely resume in-person classes. The nationwide clusters are impacting to nearly 2 billion undergraduate and over 220 million post-secondary students in 191 countries. And some institutions moved their classes to online and distance education platforms using their previous experiences, but many others struggled. Now the walls of the universities have been demolished. Over the long term, universities might shift many classes online, and a trend already underway. And as you know, there are some news around in England and in United States. Some of the universities declared that next term, I mean 2020 and 2021 school year will be online for the universities. Sorry. So, in this new landscape, quality assurance and accreditation have become an important tool once more. It is important, but now important tool. First of all, I will explain the quality assurance and accreditation system briefly, then quality assurance of online learning. Quality assurance is a holistic approach covering all the process in higher education institution in order to serve the students and other stakeholders in expected quality standards. The three main approach to quality are accreditation, assessment, and audit. Accreditation and evaluation include assessment and audit. Accreditation and evaluation differ in their perspectives. Both accreditation and assessment monitor the quality of teaching and learning, while audit focus on internal procedures adapted by higher education institutions in order to achieve their objectives. The means institution can guarantee with confidence and certainty that the standards and quality of its educational provision are being maintained and enhanced. Quality assurance and accreditation provide tools and process to enable a university to meet and reach its goals. Accreditation is a review of the quality of higher education institutional and programs. An institution or program is guaranteed accreditation for meeting minimum standards of the quality. One common accreditation theme is quality assurance assessment and continuous improvement. And this structure is very important for the universities and the future of the universities. But during COVID, we are flexible and flexible learning. How to ensure quality higher education at a distance. And then quality assurance of online learning is a challenge anymore. Online distance learning is common now in many countries. There is no doubt that there are many challenges to implement and assure quality of online education. In addition to issues of access and internet connectivity, not all programs can be supported by online technology, uh, of course, such as lab-based research programs, and we have some difficulties about this. In addition to issues of access and internet connectivity, and not all programs supported by online, as I told you. But we do not forget offering more flexible higher education in terms of delivery and pacing will be unavoidable if the COVID-19 crisis is going to be around for a while, and we should define the flexible quality standards, for it will be inevitable. Higher education quality assurance has originally developed in an era when face-to-face and learning on campus was the soul of the educational delivery. It means our standards, quality assurance standards and accreditation standards mostly are prepared for face-to-face education and on-campus education. Now we have another situation, and we know that accreditation and quality assurance process should be continuously. Since the disruptive effect of online technologies and increased student mobility has contributed to the unbundling of higher education, then higher education learning can occur in subjects delivered across institutions, domestic boundaries, and through a variety of forms such as online technologies. Online education often requires the involvement of non-academic services, including ICT providers, technicians, content providers, system administrators. Fundamentally, online education presents a new set of challenges for quality assurance policymakers who are assessing the teaching and learning process. So we have to take quality assurance frameworks need to take into consideration to specific context for online learning. Yes, why e-learning quality assurance is necessary for continued interest and investment in online learning. As you know, and as we see in this process, last 4 months, online education mainly includes 4 elements: curriculum, learning design, course content, and delivery process. If we plan those very well, it means that we are in a safe side. So, curriculum. A strong curriculum should be created for learners. It should be updated very often and reflect best practices that would help learners perform better. And we never forget about the workplaces and workplaces needs and desires. E-learning design is important, but we say e-learning developers have to create an effective learning environment that not only provides required information, but also provides engagement that ensures effective learning. Of course, course content. What we did during the coronavirus time, our materials are for face-to-face education. We moved our face-to-face materials to the online system. So from time to time, we had some difficulties and face to some challenge with these face-to-face materials. So we have to be ready for the online education, and we have to prepare we have to redesign our materials for online education and our contents, something like that. The content itself should be strong and relevant. It should provide required perspectives and should have conceptual strengths to create knowledge. Of course, delivery process is very important. Technology-aided learning can create a strong support system to sustain long-term learning by providing ample opportunities of communication and collaboration. So, okay, we say we don't know for the future 1 or 2 years what we are going to do. Hopefully, we will be go back to our universities as soon as possible and meet our students. Let's say it will take some time. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, quality assurance measures have been taken everywhere, and new arrangements have been made. Okay, if we are going to be in the online process with our students, okay, quality assurance system can't be face-to-face anymore during the evaluation process, assessment process. Today, some agencies have adopted a flexible approach to external evaluation and accreditation practices, while others have attempted to conduct virtual site visits. Now we should be ready for the on-site visit, virtual site visit for our universities for the quality assurance. These kind of approach give a more flexibility and choices to quality assurance at this time of great uncertainty. Let's talk about a little bit what is the on-site visit. If you are going to ask that I'm going to be in accreditation process and quality assurance system I want to be in, so you have to make lots of paperwork to be ready. So evaluators will be with you, and students, administrators, staff, so on. But now, for a while, it is not possible to come together face to face. That's why on-site visit. On-site visits means the organization also has the opportunity to make available materials such as examples of policies, procedures, guidelines, prospectuses, full subject details, a variety of samples of student work and learning resources. The site visit usually involves discussions with key personnel within the organization and or institutions, including academical and administrative staff, management students, recent graduates, and employers. So, what are the benefits of site visit? An on-site visit allows an accreditation review team to verify the written data provided to them by the higher education institution. Just as important for the provider, it also allows an opportunity for the review team to evaluate those features they can reliably, effectively illustrated in the written form. This meeting can reveal so much more than the documentation alone can. They can help affirm claims made in the documentations, assist to clarify inconsistent information, or provide missing information. So, first of all, do it through the documentations, then through the Zoom or whatever another tool, review team can be together and discuss the materials, so on. Then site visit. On the site visit, team coming together with the administrators, principals, rector, so on. But at the same time, maybe it can, if everything is going well, site visit can also include an opportunity tour to the physical facilities and first-hand classrooms, laboratories, etc. Then focus group discussions through online tools. Students, administrators, academics will be together. So, such as face-to-face process, the reviewer team write their reports through online, and then write the good performances or missings, something like that. And the site final stage of the site visit is often concluding a meeting with a rector of the higher education and his or her senior team. The review team briefly and objectively provides their overall impression and verbally outlines preliminary findings. It is very useful for the institutions, this kind of feedbacks, and then require further development or discuss it. So what I mean so far, quality assurance in the higher education, we are not discussing about it, is it good or not. It is now necessary. Quality assurance and accreditation system for the university, for their students, for their stakeholders, for their academic staff. So, but now we are passing through in different conditions nowadays, and everything is online, so on. But we can't stop for the accreditation system. If we can't come to face with our students, so we can't come together as well. That's why nowadays accreditation institutions prepare new model for on-site visits. Through the on-site visits, we will continue for this quality assurance system. And then quality assurance system for online learning. During this process, we saw some difficulties, and we live in it for online learning. Online learning system definitely needs the quality assurance and accreditation system. So we are dealing with those kind of things. Thank you for all to listen me. If you have any questions, I will take the questions and try to answer.
Thank you, Professor. It is very informative presentation and informative knowledge that you deliver to the higher education institutions and the members, because we know that in the future, as we are talking about future of education, we are talking about quality assurance, including the online education within the higher education system. It is very informative to internalize that quality assurance system will be in the process, and it will be a continuous process for the higher education institutions. We can see the comments from the participants. They also thank to you for your informative messages to the higher education. Thank you for your kind contribution to our conference and to the other colleagues, scholars from all around the world. We are happy to share the time with you from Ankara, Turkey. Thank you once again to be with you in here, and thank you for your valuable contribution.
Thank you
Now,
very much. Thank you very much for the university, and really I miss the really much for the and the university. I hope we'll be together in the happy
yes,
day.
now we can say that we can be in a safe and hope to meet face to face as soon as possible in
Yes.
Nicosia in North Cyprus. Uh, we are gonna move to the next keynote. And now you can see from this screen, many thanks to you about your insightful presentation about higher education. Now we are with Dr. George, our next keynote from Oxford Brookes University from UK. Welcome, George.
Okay, hello. Thank you very much. That was a
Good
very
morning once again from North Cyprus to you. We are happy to be with you in here. George Roberts, Dr. George Roberts from Oxford Brookes University will deliver a speech on Epistemic Borderlands, Reflection on Transdisciplinary Knowing. It will be a fantastic presentation in relation to the scope of the conference. Yes, George, it's your turn. Welcome once again.
Thank you very much. Let me just switch to the full screen here and see if that works as a presentation. Okay. Can you let me know, is that visible to everybody? Because all I can see is my screen now. So I hope that's all right for you all. Good morning, colleagues. Professor Faria Altine, Dr. Akon Yunlu, and Dr. Kurt. I envy you in Cyprus right now. Here we have the typical English summer. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you. The current pandemic has focused and refracted our views of the world and certainly colors my perspectives on the transdisciplinary landscape. I'm a principal lecturer in educational development at Oxford Brookes University, where I've worked for about 20 years. My scholarship at Brookes has largely been enacted through classrooms, both real and virtual. And my students have been established or newly established academics. But I came to academia relatively late, although I'd been educating adult learners for about 15 years, first at Ruskin College, and then the Workers' Educational Association, and then in the international energy industry. I worked extensively through the 1990s in the former Soviet Union, including a very pleasant period of time at Baku at the Azerbaijan State Oil Academy. My doctorate was based on work with adult users of community information technology centers in a large housing state in Britain. So, in my journey, I've observed three rocks in the interdisciplinary stream. In late 2016 and early 2017, I worked with Dundee University in Scotland, facilitating a series of workshops with the senior management team from clinical, arts, business, education, law, and social sciences faculties, attempting to develop an interdisciplinary clinical professional doctorate. The working thesis was that professionalism, by its very nature, is interdisciplinary. The project succeeded in part by interjecting a strong current of inter- and multidisciplinary discourse into the prospectus offering for postgraduate taught professional programs. There was an alignment with their One Dundee ethos. We're all in it together. However, the vision of a new interdisciplinary center for professional studies has not yet materialized. There are three rocks in the interdisciplinary stream: esteem, funding, and power, the power to allocate both of these first 2 points. Esteem, funding, and power are linked and follow deeply scored disciplinary channels. Where would an interdisciplinary PhD publish? Where would they find an academic home? What research council would fund their work? Because a discipline is a paradigm, and disciplines sit within an organizing, paradigmatic framework. And I want to look at this framework, the underpinnings of learning in higher education. So it's a journey of 1,000 miles at least. And the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. This aphorism is often repeated in contexts when uncertainty is impeding progress. The phrase is popularly attributed to Mao Zedong before the Long March. But if he ever used it, it would have been with full knowledge of how it would have worked, how it would have played with his army. The phrase comes from a long tradition of Taoist thought. The journey of 1,000 miles is not about getting started. It's about the return to wholeness. The single step is the first imperfect act that breaks the perfect whole, and thus makes the journey necessary. So where do we go to? Because whatever else they may do or aspire to, universities are repositories, generators, and transformers of the intergenerational conscience of human civilizations, are part of it. They are part of the psyche of society. You will be remembered by your universities, and this is a reason to be concerned. Anybody who has concern about a future legacy, a political legacy, will be interested in universities. And I will come on to this orientation to time, this question of the future, shortly. Higher education is a place to think. It's a place within which and through which ideas about the wider purpose and organization of society are projected onto popular opinion. Higher education and other fields are means by which arguments get put to the public. And as Ron Barnett says, different understandings of the university at the empirical level may lead to different understandings of the university at the level of its philosophical foundations and background. Now, this sets up an argument because John White argues against Barnett, saying that, well, philosophy really has only at most a limited role in elucidating the aims of higher education. So this question about sort of fundamental underpinnings suggests to me that there is an epistemic project being carried out through both the news media and many other channels these days about a wide range of popularity over identity and agency. There's the problem of essentials. How and who and what do we know? Is it real? Can it be trusted? Is it false news? And it has to do with the nature of compulsion, free will versus determinism, and agency. Is university both essential and necessary? And for what? What must I or we do? Who is it essential for? Parents, employers, students, governments? And who are we? Graduates? So this leads us into what I call the epistemic borderlands, the places between. Because there are different ways of knowing. We often think that there is only the way I know, and that's the way everybody knows, but it can be shown empirically that it's not. Traditional epistemologies, for example, distinguish knowing how from knowing that. Other examples include declarative and procedural knowledge set against ethno-philosophical or nationalist ideological knowledge, according to Chalisa, 2017. Scheffler classically identifies three: the rational, the empirical, and the pragmatic. Badiou identifies four ways that we know the truth: desire, science, the subjective, and the political, admitting the subjective to the truth. My arguments are anchored on Scheffler and Badiou, but it draws on many other antecedents and some of my own work. Because I think different ways of knowing are significant. Different ways of knowing are as significant as other embodied factors such as sex and sexuality, ancestry, race, indeed. And they are as significant as other cultural factors: religion, social class, occupation, nationality, diet, and so on. Different ways of knowing are significant to our personal and professional identity, who we are and how we do things. Different ways of knowing are significant in how we present ourselves, how we receive others, and how others receive us. Difference in ways of knowing enables unconscious bias to remain undetected, but also, something changed. It's asking me to reload the site. I'm not sure what that means. There we go. Anyway, different ways of knowing. I hope this is all okay. Speak to me in the direction if you can. Difference in ways of knowing enables unconscious bias to remain undetected, but it also enables us to correlate judgments about authenticity, fairness, and access. So to expand this observation, people differ epistemically in a few recognizable ways. Ways of knowing, their foundations of authority, the way they apply logic, their understanding of the use value of theory, orientation to time, source of power, and form of consent. In ways of knowing, people may be rational, according to Scheffler. Scheffler suggests geometry as an example, mathematics. Reason need not have a real substrate. Something need not have occurred in the world to be considered rationally, axiomatically, such as the concept of a perfect circle or a two-dimensional plane. But on the other hand, there is the empirical. Empiricism is grounded fundamentally in the material evidence of the senses. Pragmatic is about what causes visible interactions or material effects or changes in the natural and built environment. And finally, the intuitive. Don't know what's happening here. The intuitive, the leap from one reasonably justifiable true belief to another, with no obvious intervening steps. And how we know truth, again, back to Badiou, foundations of authority are four as well. Badiou identifies love, science, politics, and art, where love may embrace, of course, the erotic, but also a desire for any goal, a love of sport, or the love of learning, the passion for a cause. All of these may be known through this foundation authority of love. Contrasted with science, not passion, but hypotheses and experiment tell us what to do, often expressed in numbers. Or politics, the Hegelian state, law, institutions, and polity are where all authority resides. Or finally, art. Art is the only master, mistress, and music, poetry, painting, and dance, etc. These are all self-justifying acts. Now, Scheffler's three ways of knowing, rational, empirical, pragmatic, and intuitive, align with our approaches to logic. Rational with the deductivist applies the rules. Empirical with inductivism, the intuitive with the affective, it feels right. and the pragmatic with what is effective. It works. We may not know why, but it works. And these align with our understandings of the use value of theory. For the rationalist, theory is predictive. For the empiricist, theory is explanatory. It happens this way. The intuitive, theory is falsifiable. And for the pragmatic, theory is generative. They align with our relationships to time. The rationalist, who uses deductive logic to predict, is interested in the future. If I do this, then that will happen, or that may happen, or that should happen. Whereas the empiricist is oriented towards the past. I see this happened, and this happened. I can explain it for the following reason. While the intuitive is interested in all time, eternity, true forever, and the pragmatist is interested in what works now, this very moment. So we have 4 different orientations towards time. These all align with Badiou's foundations of authority, and the top line, love, the rational. You can imagine, if I give her flowers, then she will love me. That's the classic sort of rationalization, interested in the future, what will come to be. The objective, science, explanatory, interested in the past. Art, interested in something that's true for all time. And politics, concerned with making change now, or at least before the next election. And these align with our relationships to power. So desire is concerned with the power for connection, passion, force. Where science, power lies in interpretation, which could lead to deception. With art, it's growth and flourishing, and with politics, it's establishing boundaries. And of course, how we relate to power relates to how we give consent, whether it be consent to be governed or consent to friendship, whatever it might be. So the first line, consent is in the form of submission. The second line, consent in the form of inducement. The third, dominance. Art is really the bully. It's interesting. And politics is concerned with assuring compliance. But it gets more complicated. And in some ways, these grids are problematic in themselves, because you can test people and you can align them and you can do psychometrics and you can find out how people relate to one another. There is an adjacency effect. Badiou suggested that truth known by one authority may activate others. That is, desire, science, art, and politics may meet in one person with varying force. And there are many such grids. These are a few that I've worked with, that we've all probably worked with from time to time. The Teaching Perspectives Inventory, MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicators, Gardner's Multiple Intelligences, Bloom's Taxonomy of the Cognitive Domain. And all of these, if you like, can add yet another dimension to this complexity. So the area becomes a volume, and no one is likely to be strong in every item in every column. There's a force effect, even if only strong or weak. And what this all leads to is realizing that there are probably as many ways for people to be different from one another in how they know the world as there are peoples in the world. Certainly in this simple matrix, there's between about 2,000 and more than 5 million possible combinations of sets to be made out of these items. So how is it at all useful? I hypothesize that there will be modal patterns. There might be dominant ridges. This is the basis of social media marketing algorithms, learning analytics, psychometrics, and so on. But there are broad spaces in between. And these are the borderlands. These are the frontiers of knowledge upon which we wander, where higher education is supposed to spend its time. Quality assurance was mentioned in the previous talk by your rector. And the Quality Assurance Agency for Higher Education stipulates that at the graduate level, at the university level, 4, 5, and 6, first, second, and third year of the degree, students are expected to be introduced to, use, and then apply the knowledge at the forefront of their field. So how do we know when we're at the forefront until we're out there exploring in the borderlands? These borderlands are where most people spend their lives, in the spaces between. Now, we're in a period of wicked problems, and wicked problems may require unorthodox solutions. Pandemics test the limits, for example, and indeed wisdom of, maybe, globalization. When the threat was perceived and unorthodox solutions were needed, traditional disciplines asserted themselves. The paradigmatic so-called Anglo-Saxon Atlanticist approach is to treat wealth and status as a zero-sum ranking. If one goes up, another must go down. Or in a league table where nations are like athletic teams or the Eurovision Song Contest, which means certainly in Britain, the pandemic response was done in a similar vein. Everything had to be world-beating instead of simply being the right thing to do. So these kind of underpinning ways of seeing the world have big impacts on the way education is done, the way knowledge is transferred, and ultimately on what we do. So where is the place of a discipline? Disciplines are like settlements in forests. In times of safety, people roam freely in the wide open spaces, but when a threat is perceived, they move to the walls. And this has relevance in respect of our current situation. People orient themselves towards learning in different ways at different stages of life and even at different times of day. There are physical embodied factors and there are cultural historical factors. And discipline moderates these factors and is a factor in its own right. And discipline is also enacted through the body, not only through the mind. Which brings us to the question of transdisciplinarity, migration between disciplinarity. And this exposes another wicked problem in the world today, that of migration and settlement. The impetus to cross borders, to migrate, is at least twofold. And these are situations that we are dealing with now. Discomfort here and attraction or allure there. And both allow for degrees and causes. How is the discomfort caused? How strong is the draw of another? Would you stay here if you could? How much force is brought to bear? How powerful is desire? And this was played out in effect at in the anecdote I started with at Dundee, where there was discomfort in the current disciplinary structure when it came to professional doctorates. But ultimately, they couldn't bring either enough force to bear or the desire wasn't strong enough to overturn the whole disciplinary underpinning of the institution. Because the places in between are not empty. You can't just move into an empty territory and decide to make it yours. We've seen the problem, of course, in North America. We see the problem in the housing estates here, where we're all digital first, aren't we? Where the digital world, if you like, begins to impact upon the real lives of people. And if you can't negotiate with the state, except through the means of smartphones and computers, it's very difficult to obtain a living sometimes. Because our land may be overrun, our beliefs mocked. We took to the sea in small boats, the last of a once happy people. Our valleys had fruit. We were driven out or hunted down. This land saved us. We made it ours. So who has rights in these places? Definitions are inadequate. Our myths include similar dangers. because colonization has to do with occupying somebody else's space. And this might be the space of a discipline. I might, as an educationalist, move briefly into law or move briefly into politics. But when I see somebody from another discipline move into mine, I feel they are somehow imposing themselves upon me. Which brings me back to different ways of knowing. There is a strand in the literature of ethnographic research methods concerned with the exclusion or inclusion of indigenous local knowledge. Chalisa writes about this from South Africa. Disciplines, of course, have their own indigenous local knowledge. And when interrogating disciplinarity, do those who inquire appear to be the ethnographer from a colonial heritage? So this brings me to reliable approaches to knowing, where there's a shared responsibility in virtue-based knowledge, shared beliefs in values-based knowledge, and shared enterprise or campaigning together in relational political knowledge. The central question is not so much what knowledge is, as what it is to be a good knower. Such intellectual character virtues as curiosity, open-mindedness, attentiveness, carefulness, courage, intellectual courage, and rigor and honesty in the pursuit of goods like knowledge, truth, and understanding. And I think we get there through dialogue. For me, teaching methodologies have dialogue at their heart, an axis of activity and experience, scaffolded by reflection and participation in communities leading to outcomes. Dialogic learning is co-participatory. People learn together. And I use these principles as a checklist for design and evaluation. How do we include dialogue in our teaching? How do we bring in experience, not just my experience, but yours? And how do I engage you in active learning? And these systems, such as we're speaking through now, I am not even sure if you've heard me. For all I know, you may have gone silent out there. Okay? So active learning is difficult in the online environment, but I'll argue it's essential. So what are the implications for the curriculum? I'm going to speak about implications for the curriculum, implications for teaching, and implications for the institution, and then invite questions. So I think implications for the curriculum are that we have activity-based education, that it draws on experience, not just the experience of the experts out there, but the experience of the students where they come from too, because we all have experience. It's dialogic. We talk synchronously and asynchronously, even back into deep time. Reflective learning is an important part of any curriculum, bringing experience into scholarly evidence through at least 4 critical lenses: that of the self, that of the student, that of your colleagues, and that of the literature. It's co-participatory in that tutors engage as and with participants. We are always learning. One challenge that was given to academics at my institution when teaching first-year foundation courses were asked, what new item did you have to read this year to teach this course? Because at the higher education level, knowledge moves quite quickly. It's community located. Disciplines, institutions are all communities. And finally, outcomes led. There is a curriculum and there are aims. The program is validated by, this was Cranfield, Middle Eastern University, and it contributes towards the Higher Education Academy professional recognition as an associate or a fellow. The implications for the teacher are that you need to communicate clearly, okay? Teachers need to be engaged with their students and need to be able to check that you've understood. And that's the thing that's making me nervous here. We need to use language consistently at key points to signpost, mark, and measure progression. Encourage active learning and group work. Give feedback regularly. Use some kind of schema to underpin your teaching plans. Set high expectations. Attach to an extra, don't just be you that says it. The British Psychological Society, Chartered Engineers, Nursing and Midwifery Council, General Medical Council, etc. Don't just be your only authority. And finally, account for difference, both in yours and your learners' ways of coming to know. Which leads me to what will be pretty much my last point, which is that there are implications for the institution as well. And I'll conclude with Ron Barnett's statement that different understandings of the university at the empirical level may lead to different understandings of the university at the level of its philosophical foundations and background. And it goes both ways. Different philosophical understandings will manifest themselves empirically in the world in different ways. And sometimes this has risk for all of us. Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed and heard that.
Presentation, and it's very informative. From all your words, all the institutions, colleagues, and the scholars are going to question their curriculum, teaching, and also institutional philosophical background. As you can see from the screen, there are a lot of thanks, and also there are comments from the listeners and the participants.
So thank you to Robert Howard. Go Corona. Thank you, Reem Jabra.
As you mentioned from your presentation, it's very crucial to create an active learning and clear communication between the student and the tutor. It's very critical point of view, which we are gonna consider and try to get success on online learning environment as well.
Thank you very much. One of the things that I would like to be able to do, what was difficult to do today, is I couldn't see any of the audience. I could only see my own presentation, and I could only hear my own voice. So I like often to stop in the middle, and I felt I couldn't stop in the middle and say, do you have and I would ask you questions. So there is a whole sort of game we can play with the grid.
Mentioned that feedback and clear communications are very crucial, but we get the success on they really intensively listen you and internalize what you say during the presentation, because we are seeing from the comments and the grateful thanks to you from all around the world to the UK. Thank you very much for your contribution and valuable contribution to the conference and to the scholars from all around the world. And we are happy to know you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you for your invitation.
Thank you very much once again. Now we come to the end of the keynote session of the conference. Conference will continue with the parallel sessions with the presentation. I would like to thank to all of you for your kind participation and the contributions. And I would like to thank Nearest University Television and Director Evren Manner for his contribution and support during this process. Thank you very much to all of you. See you in the following times.